What if I told you your grandparents weren't better with money? They were playing an easier game. What if I told you the reason you can't buy a house, can't pay off debt, can't save, and just can't seem to get ahead has nothing to do with your habits and everything to do with a system that was rewritten against you? Because your grandparents weren't smarter, they weren't luckier, they weren't more disciplined. They were living in an economy that wasn't designed to extract from them. Yours is. Your grandparents could buy a house with one salary. You need 2 salaries and 30 years of debt. Your grandparents paid for college with a part-time job. You need loans that follow you for decades. Your grandparents saw wages rise with productivity. You see wages stagnate while everything else explodes in price. This isn't a coincidence. This is architecture. Before we dive deeper into the conspiracy hiding behind inflation and stagnant wages, tell me, where are you watching this video from? Because this crisis isn't just an American problem, it's everywhere. And if you're new here, subscribe now for the unfiltered truth they prefer to hide behind official statistics. What you're about to learn will make you rethink every financial struggle you've ever had. Let's go back in time. Not to the Great Depression or World War II, but to the era your grandparents lived in. The 1950s to the 1970s, often called the golden age of the middle class. During this period, a single salary could comfortably support a family. Houses cost about 2 to 3 years of wages. College was affordable, sometimes paid for with a summer job. Healthcare was cheap, jobs were stable, savings actually grew, and significant debt was rare. Why? Because the economy followed one simple rule. Wages grew at the same speed as productivity. If the economy grew by 4%, wages grew by 4%. If companies made more money, so did their workers. It was a shared prosperity. But today, productivity has skyrocketed. Wages have flatlined. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what happened after 1971, when President Nixon ended the gold standard. This single decision changed everything. Before 1971, money was tied to gold. This meant governments couldn't just print infinitely. Inflation was low, and wages generally stayed in sync with prices. After 1971, money became fiat, backed by nothing but government promise. Governments could print at will. Inflation became a permanent feature of the economy. And wages, they stopped rising with productivity. The economy didn't break, it was redesigned. Think about the housing market. Your grandparents paid almost nothing for their homes by today's standards. Why? Because land was cheaper. Zoning regulations often allowed for more development. The demand for housing was more or less matched by supply. And most importantly, financialization hadn't taken over the market. Mortgages weren't the 30-year debt traps they are today. Now homes cost 8 to 12 times the average annual wage. It's not because the houses got that much better. It's because the currency got weaker. Inflation enriched asset owners and punished wage earners. Guess which group most of us are in? Sound familiar? It's the same strategy used with so many other essentials. Medical costs, college tuition, cars, rent, even food. The prices of the things you absolutely need have inflated dramatically, while your wages have stagnated. This wasn't an accident. It was a mechanism. And then came the corporate takeover. Starting in the 1980s, we saw a massive shift. Private equity firms began buying up everything from hospitals to trailer parks. Wall Street financialized housing, turning homes from places to live into assets for investment portfolios. Corporations actively worked to suppress wages, arguing for efficiency and competitiveness. Automation started replacing workers in factories, and globalization sent manufacturing jobs overseas. Your grandparents competed for jobs with their neighbors. You are competing with robots, billion-dollar investment funds, and global labor markets where workers earn a fraction of what you do. Sound familiar? Because the very same playbook is now being used with artificial intelligence. Here is the truth they never wanted you to figure out. You are not struggling because you're irresponsible. You're not bad with money. You're struggling because the economic ladder was sawed in half. The game was changed while you were being told to just play harder. And the moment that changed everything can be traced back to a private conversation in 1971 between Nixon's advisors and the Federal Reserve. The argument was simple. Pegging our currency to gold limits growth. If we unpeg it, we can control the world's financial system. What they didn't advertise was the consequence, that inflation would explode, wages would freeze, and debt would replace prosperity for the average person. And there's one more sinister twist to this story. After 1971, governments realized something incredibly powerful. If they inflate the currency, they also inflate their tax revenue. Every price increase raises the sales tax base. Every salary bump, even if it's worthless in real terms because of inflation, pushes people into higher tax brackets. This is called bracket creep. So inflation doesn't just steal your savings, it strengthens the state by quietly increasing its revenue without having to pass a single new tax law. Your grandparents lived before this scheme was perfected. You are living in the full, finished version of the trap. But we're just scratching the surface. What comes next? The receipts behind deliberate wage suppression, the full story of the housing conspiracy, and the hidden truth about why you can't build wealth is far worse than you think. And I'm going to show you all of it. Ever feel like you're running on a treadmill, working harder than ever but getting nowhere? You're not alone, and it's not your fault. Let's talk about why your life feels so much harder than your grandparents' generation. This isn't about blaming them. It's about understanding the system you were born into. First, let's look at wages. Since the 1980s, a major shift happened. Corporations figured out they could suppress wages and get away with it. How? They started outsourcing labor to cheaper countries, automating jobs that used to belong to people, and actively working to weaken unions. They also lobbied governments to keep the minimum wage frozen for years on end. On top of that, they began hiring contractors instead of full-time employees, which meant no benefits, no job security, just a paycheck. The result of all this, for 40 years, the wages for the average worker have barely moved. They've stagnated. But while your paycheck was stuck in the mud, something else was happening. CEO pay absolutely exploded, increasing by over 1,400%. Corporate profits soared to all-time highs. Companies started spending billions on stock buybacks, which inflates their stock price and makes the shareholders richer instead of investing that money back into their workers or the business. Your grandparents weren't competing against trillion-dollar global corporations that view labor as just another line item to be minimized. You are. That's a fundamental difference in the economic landscape. Next up, housing. This one hits close to home for so many of us. Your grandparents probably bought a house. It was a normal part of the life script. Get a job, get married, buy a house, start a family. For many of them, a single income could support a mortgage and a family. Today, it's a completely different battlefield. When you go to buy a home, you're not just bidding against other families. You're bidding against massive financial institutions. We're talking about hedge funds, private equity firms, pension funds, real estate investment trusts, and foreign investment groups. A company like BlackRock doesn't just buy a house. They buy entire neighborhoods, block by block. And they're not buying them to live in, they're buying them to rent back to you, often at prices that climb higher and higher each year. Home ownership used to be a pathway to building wealth for the middle class. It was the cornerstone of financial security. Seeing this, the big players decided they wanted a piece of that action. So, they effectively hijacked the housing market, turning a basic human need into a financial asset to be traded and exploited. They took the dream of home ownership away from millions. Now let's talk about education, the infamous college debt machine. Since the 1970s, tuition has skyrocketed by an unbelievable 1,200%. Did education get 12 times better? Did the professors get 12 times smarter? Of course not. So what happened? The system changed. The government started guaranteeing student loans, which meant colleges realized they could charge whatever they wanted. There was no limit. If a student couldn't afford it, no problem. Just sign here for a loan that will follow you for the rest of your life. Your grandparents could often pay for a semester of college with a summer job. Think about that. Can you imagine paying for your tuition today by flipping burgers or lifeguarding for 3 months? It's laughable. For your generation, getting a degree often means shackling yourself to decades of debt. A financial burden that delays home ownership, starting a family, and saving for retirement. It's a trap, and it was set decades ago. Then there's the silent thief that eats away at your money every single day, inflation. Since 1971, when the US dollar was decoupled from gold, it has lost about 97% of its purchasing power. What you could buy for 3 cents back then costs you $1 today. Now you might think, well, wages went up too, right? Yes, but not nearly enough. When you adjust for all that inflation, real wages have only gone up by about 11% in 50 years. So when you feel poorer, when you feel like your money just doesn't go as far as it used to, you're not imagining it. You are, mathematically, poorer. The numbers don't lie. Your paycheck may have more zeros on it, but its actual power to buy things has been decimated. This brings me to my next point. Stop letting people tell you that your financial struggles are because of lifestyle inflation. You've heard it, right? The media, the financial gurus, they all say the same thing to millennials and Gen Z. Stop buying avocado toast, cancel your streaming services, stop buying coffee, stop traveling. It's absurd, and frankly, it's insulting. It's a distraction from the real issues. Your grandparents didn't have to deal with the economic realities you face. They didn't see $3,000 monthly rents for a basic apartment. They didn't face $50,000 tuition bills. The average home wasn't $400,000. A cheeseburger didn't cost $17. They weren't dealing with stagnant wages, a broken healthcare system that can bankrupt you overnight, exploding debt levels, and credit cards with 20% interest rates. They lived in a world that was structured to make building wealth possible for the average person. You live in a world that, for many, makes building wealth improbable. It's not about the coffee, it's about the math. And let's talk about productivity. This is one of the biggest heists of the modern era. Over the past several decades, worker productivity has doubled. Thanks to technology, new processes, and just plain old hard work, the average employee produces twice as much value for their company as they did a generation ago. So you'd think their pay would have doubled too, right? Or at least gone up significantly. Nope. Wages have remained almost completely flat. So where did all that extra value, all that extra money you created go? It was captured by corporations and their shareholders. Your grandparents' generation had an unwritten social contract. If you worked harder and produced more, you got a raise. You shared in the success you helped create. Your generation gets pizza parties and emails about being part of a family, while executives cash in multi-million-dollar bonuses. They call it productivity theft for a reason. And just when you think you've navigated all these obstacles, taxes come in to finish the job. As everything gets more expensive due to inflation, you get pushed into higher income tax brackets. This is called bracket creep. So you get a small raise to keep up with inflation. But then you have to give more of it to the government, leaving you right back where you started, or even further behind. Property taxes go up as home values inflate, even if your wages don't. Sales taxes seem to be tacked onto everything. Social security and other contributions keep rising. The system gets you on both ends. It steals your purchasing power on the front end through inflation, and then it steals your earnings on the back end through taxation. Listen, your grandparents weren't financial geniuses. They weren't some uniquely privileged or exceptional generation. They were simply born into an economic system that wasn't actively weaponized against them. You, on the other hand, inherited a system that is designed to monetize your struggle. It's a system engineered to inflate prices, suppress your wages, push you into debt, destroy your savings, and enrich the people who already own all the assets. It's a system designed to tax every corner of your life, lock you into a cycle of renting, and prevent real upward mobility for the majority. You weren't meant to rise in this system. You were meant to serve it. Unless you understand how this machine works, you'll feel like you're drowning, and you won't know why. You'll blame yourself. But the truth is simple. Your grandparents lived in an economy. You live in an extraction machine. So before you click away, I want you to ask yourself a serious question. Are we, as a generation, failing? Or were we set up to fail? If this message resonated with you, share this video. Help wake someone else up. And make sure you subscribe, because awareness is the very first step toward breaking the script that they wrote for you. Thanks for watching.